Hey guys, this is a BMW i4 and this is my BMW E30 1989. This is the ancestor for that, and I thought it'd be an interesting comparison to look at the two of them together and see if there's any similarities as well as the considerable differences.
A brown car guy. Brown car guy.
Now, first thing, of course, you can notice is that is so much bigger. So much bigger. It absolutely dwarfs it, doesn't it? I mean, the old 3 Series is probably about the size of a 1 Series today. The kidney grille is present and correct. Of course, it is much more pronounced and oversized on the newer car than it is on that one. There's something about the stance, of course, the way that the wheels, the tires sit just nearly proud of the wheel arches. That's carried through. You can see that. Obviously, you can see the 3-box design. Mine's a coupe or a 2-door. That's a 4-door. But of course, you can see what is quite actually a subtle Hofmeister kink on the classic 3 Series on the E30, compared to perhaps just a little bit more pronounced, actually, I would say, on the newer car. But you know, you have to tell me now which one you prefer in terms of styling. There's a very sedate, I would say. You know, it looks like it could be an ordinary commuter car. It looks like, but you know, when you drive these things, you know that they're actually quite sporty. The 3 Series, the classic 3 Series, always was sort of marketed as a sort of mid-level executive car that you could commute in, but those that knew understood the tagline, the ultimate driving machine. Whereas you take the newer car, and obviously they're designed to be everyday cars and things like that, but however, you see that instantly there's a sportier line to it, there's a sportier look to it. It's almost like standard stuff nowadays to put sporty lines into the cars, you know, as a default. So this one is an i4, it's an eDrive35, and I drove the i4 M50, I think it was. I'll correct that if I've got that wrong. But and that was about a year and a half ago at the SMMT Drive Day, and I had to say that became my favorite electric car, just because of the way it drove, the way it handled, even the way it sounded. I thought it was fantastic. So this is a sort of more sort of bread and butter version of that. So it'd be interesting to take this for a little quick drive. So let me just show you quickly the boot of that. It is actually quite large in comparison to mine, but actually mine is not so bad either. I can't show you mine at the moment. It's full of a cover and all kinds of cleaning stuff, but I'd say compared to the E30, that's actually about the same, maybe a little bit more generous, and obviously it's easy to get stuff in because there's a hatch now, and under the floor, of course, there's more room, so there's a bit more room here. But actually it's got a sound system there, the Harman Kardon sound system, plus place for the cables. So it's got, obviously, it's a big old tailgate. Let's look at the rear passenger space quickly. Like I said, I've done a full review of the i4, so the link for that is below, so I won't get into this, but I'll just give you a quick look at the spec and the trim on this particular car, and also let's have a look at the front as well. There you go, check that out, frameless doors. That's kind of cool. I still think frameless doors are cool. So this is the car. Like I said, I'm not going to do a detailed review because I already did this, so go check it out. I'll put the link below of the i4 that I did. But I will tell you that this thing has got 400 Newton meters of torque, and it's got 282 horsepower. It does 0 to 62 miles per hour in 6 seconds. So that's what this is. But also, I'll tell you where was the price? There you go. This thing is pretty much 58,500 pounds for this car. Okay, so with that in mind, and there you go, there's the interior, all screens here. I've got a little route guidance in there, got my coffee. So let's take it for a drive.
Brown car guy.
So I'm actually at Farnborough Exhibition Centre, where BMW is having a little bit of a drive day event. So this is an event where they put on for the media to come and sample some of their electric models. This is specifically to do with electric models, this event today. And so you'll hear the route guidance, because they obviously have recommended routes that they have given us in the route guidance. So we're going to take it out of the Farnborough Airport, Farnborough Exhibition Centre, and take it for a little run and see what it's like. Let's go into sports mode. Here we go. Oh, and the sound is there. Oh, look at this. Everything, I don't know if you can see that on that screen, on that camera, but everything went red. the dial's completely changed, and the sound. Oh, and the acceleration is just bonkers. It's like, it's there straight away. It makes this incredible noise. It is the quietness, of course, is a factor in these cars, but then of course you hear the other aspects of the ground and everything like that. But you know, you have to keep an eye on the speed, because then you end up going a little bit quicker than, you know, you might anticipate, because it is just so quiet, and therefore it's a little bit harder to tell, you know, what sort of speed you're doing, because a lot of us do rely on that in terms of establishing or trying to understand like what sort of speed we're doing. Is often based on the sound. It's always based on the sensations that we have. But you know, the ride on, I mean, this is a rough road, so it's really picking up this road right now. Setting the climate control, it's just everything is on the screen here, so I don't have to do very much there. Just set the number and everything is there. Down here you've got your iDrive system. Do they still call it that? But it's basically a super remote, but it's a touch screen. It's a massive touch screen, so I don't know really why you use that. And I've got a heads-up display, a full color heads-up display. So in addition to the map down here, I've got a full heads-up color display there, which is also telling me where I need to go and everything, as well as obviously the instructions. And then, of course, I'll still probably get it wrong at some point, because that's what always happens. And the temptation, you got to be careful, because the temptation is to like deploy that torque. It's just extraordinary, you know. But so this is even in this one. So this is not the M50 or whatever, but this is like the regular one. No, I would say regular, but you know, they have multiple ranges on them, and you know, and the ranges are getting quite confusing now, because they've got BMW, got the I range and the iX range, and then the iXM, and then the iX on its own, and then the iX versions of the SUV version. So it's all quite complicated. These, of course, have this BMW's platform, which can be used either way. So I think the i4, the i7, i5, I think they all have that, where, you know, of course, so that they can also fit in petrol engines as well, or rather hybrid engines, which is how I think it's working, in addition to full electric. So they are slightly raised, because they still have that platform where the battery is sandwiched under the floor. And you do feel, so I mean, one of the things, I mean, if I was to compare this with the 3 Series, it feels like a bigger car, that's for sure. Straight away, it feels like a much bigger car inside. I feel like I'm sitting a bit higher, but I'm sitting a bit more reclined, oddly enough, you know. I got good leg room. There is, you know, what you're asking, what you might be thinking is like, well, is there a familiarity about it? Well, there always is with BMWs, particularly with the saloon models. There is a familiarity about them. So you still kind of get that, you know, and I still kind of feel like I'm in a BMW. The steering, you know, there's no, I mean, I wouldn't say no feel, but there's, you know, compared to like the E30, there's no feel in this thing, but it is weighted. So there's like an artificial weighting to it, but it doesn't feel as sort of raw, if you like, as it does in my car. So that it does feel like it's kind of simulated, you know, if you see what I mean. So for a big car, it's relatively, well, I mean, I say big car, but this is the i4, so it's sort of the 4 Series, 3 Series version. But again, like if we're doing a comparison with my car, with the E30, it's big. But having said that, it doesn't feel difficult to place. It feels quite the right size for these sort of roads. You know, you can easily see around it. The rear window, I've got to say, the visibility out of it, the visibility out of my car is so much better than this. But of course, that's always the case with older cars, because they have the thinner pillars and the much more glass area. So, relatively, proportionately speaking. So, you know, you do feel like that it's area. This already feels a bit darker, you know, even though mine has a sunroof, but even with the sunroof closed, this one still feels darker. But the visibility at the back is quite restrictive. However, having said that, it's got these ginormous wing mirrors compared to what I have on the E30, so that really compensates. And of course, it's got, you know, all the detection systems, safety systems, which I'm not going to go into detail today, but you know, it's got all that stuff. So very, very smooth, very quiet, very refined. Can't really complain. Now they're on a better road, the ride is settled down. It is quite firm, actually. I've got it in sports though, to be fair. If I put it into comfort, you know, you can see that's changed. That goes kind of like a bronzy color it's gone to. But the ride, I wouldn't say that there's a massive difference in the ride, honestly. I'm tempted to just keep it in sports because I don't detect a huge amount of difference. And you just get a grunt kind of noise on acceleration. We still get the acceleration even in the regular comfort mode rather than the sports mode, which is, you know, it's like, well, what's it? So I'm putting it back into sports. I mean, you know, it doesn't really feel that much different, honestly. You get a little bit of lift-off braking, pedal-off braking. Not exactly a one-pedal system, but you know, you get a bit of that on it. I don't know where the button is for one pedal. Oh, I do like the sound that it makes when it's in sports mode, and it does this sound. I don't know if this is the same sound as the one that was in the other one, the Hans Zimmer one, but I'm guessing that it must be, if not the same, then a derivative of that. But it definitely, I do like, you know, people argue whether there should be simulated sound or not. I think there should be, because, you know, sound is part of the driving experience, you know. Even if it's an artificial sound or a simulated sound, it's something there that gives you a kind of an oral feedback to what is going on, you know, what you're doing with the car, what the car is doing, you know, and I think it's kind of helpful to the whole driving experience. Oh, nice. And it's turning it in, it's sharp, it holds the ground. I mean, it's kind of, you know, definitely the lower center of gravity is just keeping it absolutely planted, and you know, there's a fair amount of confidence you can throw it in with, and actually just thread it through the corners and through the gaps. I wonder if it's in comfort, if it will do the same thing. Yeah, I mean, actually, although it will accelerate quickly in comfort, but it won't do it as instantly as it does. So I think for a lot of people, if you don't want to be sort of alarmed or taken back by, but you know, the cornering and stuff is still there. But if you don't want to be as alarmed by the ferocity of the acceleration, then comfort mode is probably the one to opt for most of the time. Although, like I said, I'm keeping it in sports. I put it back into sports now because I like the sound. I like the color on the instrument panel. God, I'm such a kid. And you know, I like the more instant. What's the snap that you get? It's like a switch. You flick a switch and off you go. So in this regard, this my E30 is no comparison whatsoever for this, because although, you know, back in the day, the 325i, which is what I've got, was a quick car, and you know, it's no means a slouch even today. You know, it will hold its own, no problem at all. But it's, you know, it's nothing compared to something like this. So that's it. Yeah, it's, you can't really compare in terms of performance. You know, this would just demolish it, would just leave it standing instantly. You know, but you know, I guess the thing is that if you're a BMW driver and you want to move to an electric car and you're not quite sure yet, but you want to maintain or retain some of the sensation and feel and familiarity of driving a BMW, particularly if you're a 3 Series or a 4 Series owner, then this is a good step. This is a good step. This is a good stepping stone. This is a good way to sort of, you know, jump into that car, and it really won't feel that much different to what you're used to. You know, there will be certain things, but other than that, you know, you'll feel like you're at home. That's for sure. This is the i4. A sort of more accessible. I mean, if you can call a near 60 grand car accessible, a more accessible one. You can definitely afford several E30s for the same money. I can tell you that much for sure. But how does it compare? I mean, if you're looking for a brand new car, like I said, if you want to make that transition, if that's what you're about, if you're like, I'll need to make this transition over to an EV, and you're really used to driving a BMW 3 Series or 4 Series, and this is probably the car that you need to go to. I have to say, the M50 blew my mind away, and I think that that's probably still would be my favorite. But I gotta say that with the sound, with the performance, with the feel of this car, still feeling that familiarity that's still there, I would say that this is definitely up there on my list. If for anybody that I would want to recommend to move to an EV, definitely have a look at an i4. It's definitely one of the key ones that you need to put on your shortlist. That is self-evident. In terms of charisma and style, I mean, you know, I don't mind the looks of it. I think it's a really handsome looking car. You know, there are obviously that grille does polarize opinion, but once you put the number plate across it, I don't really have an issue with it. I think it sort of calms down. But having said that, when you compare this to the classic looks of the E30, in my mind, there's no comparison. And also in the sense that the reaction that car gets, the E30 gets, when you drive it around, you know, the thumbs ups, the smiles, the waves that it gets, there's no comparison.
Brown car guy.
So like I said, just to reiterate, it's not really a comparison test. It's not really a twin test or anything like that. But just because I have the ancestor of the i4, this is the E30. It's a 325i, 170 horsepower, 0 to 60 in about seven and a bit seconds or so. 5-speed manual gearbox on this car, straight 6-cylinder engine. So how does it compare? Well, like I said, you know, that car is miles and miles, streets ahead in terms of performance, refinement, gadgetry, you know, and just advances in technology and safety and construction and all the rest of it. But having said that, this little car, and it is little, like back in the day, I wouldn't have called this a little car, but by today's standards, cobbled pavement. But by today's standards, and you see, like, you wouldn't have got that. You wouldn't have got that in the i4, all that level of noise and vibration. But back in the day, this I wouldn't have called this a little car. It was a decent executive-sized car, you know. But by today's standards, little car. And I've got to say that jumping back into this car, so just to conclude this, jumping back into this car, the feel of the steering, the fact that it's all so tactile, it's so mechanical, you can smell it, you can hear it, you can hear the body, you can hear everything that's going on, the gear changes, the clutch, the engagement, just with driving out of Farnborough onto this road, the fact is that the level of engagement on this car is X multiplied whatever you could hope for in an i4. Having said that, like I said, the i4 in every other way is superior. You know, there's no question about it, and it is the future. But what do you want to drive? The future or the past? That's the question. And the reality is, really, you should be driving the future. That's what you should be doing, because the future is the future. You know, we should look at the past, we should admire it, we should respect it, we should learn from it, but we should move ahead. You know, and as a Star Trek fan, that's what I should advocate. Having said that, I'm so happy to be going home in this. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next video.
Brown car guy.
Hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please hit the like button and share this video as well if you can. And while you're at it, check out these guys who also sponsor my content. I am deeply grateful to them because it helps me to buy new equipment, put fuel in the cars, and yes, buy a cup of coffee. You can do the same. Just go here or right here on YouTube. Just hit these 3 little dots down here and click on thanks. Make sure you're signed in first. My content is free, but this is how you can help me keep it that way. I may even send you a gift. Oh, by the way, watch this next.